thank you all for coming. And I suppose Ellie and I, we haven't really planned this talk. I guess that's what we wanted. That's what I wanted to say at the beginning. And we wanted to respond to you guys a bit, but I guess we can both start off by saying a few things, because you've all seen the show already. You've all been around the show. So what I wanted to say to begin with was that Ellie approached me to see if I wanted to do a show with her, and then we both agreed we would, and we both agreed we'd do it on the theme of fold, or the fold. And it was at that moment that I started focusing on that. I think Ellie had already been looking at the fold a little bit, and then we went about seeing if we could get the show here, and that happened. And so we then became much more focused because we had a time limit then, and so we started developing our body of work, and we had a few meetings where we talked about what we were going to do, and or what we were interested in, and the meetings, the similarities in our practices, but also the differences. And I think out of those discussions we could see that there were a lot of similarities, even though our mediums are quite different. And then we just went our own ways, and we only met up again only a few months ago to show each other what we've done. And we've come up with these two different bodies of work that actually seem to sit quite well together. I feel they sit quite well together, but we really didn't, sit down and say, right, you make that, and I'll make that, and then these will all hang together. It was only bringing all the work into the gallery earlier this week, and on the weekend that we, for the first time, had it all sitting together, and we feel like it does sit together okay.
Yeah, and I think we didn't set out to collaborate, to do a collaborative project. Rather, we wanted to investigate the subject matter in our own way, the way that we go off and make our work, and to see what the outcome would be. And even if it didn't sit comfortably together, we were prepared for that too. That was going to be the outcome. So we approached it in an unusual way, I guess, but that's just how we decided to do it. There were some thoughts about perhaps doing the work together, but that didn't happen. And
no.
I'm kind of pleased in a way, but I think it's also opened the door for other projects and thinking about other things that we might be able to do together, or might not. But the fold, I started thinking about it last year. I was reading a book called The Fold by Deleuze, a French philosopher who's now dead, who annoys the hell out of me in a lot of ways. I find his ideas quite irritating, but there was something that drew me to some things he was describing, and I just kept going back to it and reading over it. I didn't understand a lot of it, especially the mathematical parts. I haven't got a clue what he's all about, but I really enjoyed the way he described everything as part of the fold, I guess. So things that are visible and invisible are all part of the fold. So that's how I want to approach my work, and just start playing with materials that, I'm always playing with materials, but see whether what I got from what he was saying would actually come out in the work, and I think it has. I guess we could talk about process if anyone's interested in that. Or
Yeah, I'd like to just say something a bit more general for starters. One of the things we saw as a connection between our work was that we're both interested in ambiguity, and in the ambiguous as a subject matter, which was kind of ironic really, because it was like having no subject matter as your subject matter, which we really kind of liked that, and we thought that it actually was a common point between us that we each had trouble at times talking about our work or writing about our work or making work that was somehow easily accessible to people in terms of the meaning or the subject matter. And that was one of the struggles we'd each had with our postgraduate studies, was finding out how to develop a language or a way for people to get into the work. And so it's actually been interesting, the two of us discovering that we had that in common. And I think that is one of the things that really makes the show hang together, is that sense of ambiguity in the work. Yeah. And I think that we've, as I had said yesterday, we gave a little talk yesterday, but that another thing that is a difference in our work is, I think that Ellie's kind of is more interested in challenging some of the preconceived ideas of her medium, photography, whereas I'm actually trying to embrace some of the fundamental ideas of sculpture. And but one thing I think we both do have in common is an idea of questioning some ideas in contemporary art, particularly in terms of seeing the primary role of contemporary art as being about communication. And that's a questionable thing, but it comes up quite a lot that art is about communication, and that I think we're both interested in trying to find our way around that, or ways that we could develop our practice without having to focus on it being us trying to say something with the work. We're more interested in looking at our development of our technique and in working with our medium. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. Yes, I would. That point you make about the ambiguous nature, I suppose, is interesting, because it's probably less the case with sculpture, but certainly with photography. People do tend to come to photography thinking that they're going to see a reproduction of something that exists in the world as they know it, or even if it's a bit unusual, it's still a photograph of something that exists or has existed. And that's not to say that the things in my photographs, obviously they've had a life, but they no longer exist. And that's something I've always been interested in and will continue to do, because there's so many reproductions around nowadays, and that's also not to say that I don't appreciate a jolly fine photograph or something, that, you know, a reproduction, but I like the idea of putting photographs up that they don't obviously ask questions, but there are questions surrounding the nature of the subject matter.
Yeah, what is it of?
Yeah. I mean, and definitely your work too. Yours, I suppose that the metaphor, which I sort of have moved away from a bit, but I suppose that comes up a lot. I noticed last night people saying about your work, it reminds me of this or that. Obviously they've had a life, but they no longer exist.